Happy New Year! It is January 1st, and it is exciting because it is the beginning of a brand new year. And, there's just something about the 1st of January that gives us hope and for just put things behind us and start thinking and being hopeful for a new year. And we're doing that by focusing on the battle of the mind, especially in the month of January. So I posted earlier the first quote for my journalers that's going to go in your journal. And it was, the only thing that makes it a part of your life is that you keep thinking about it. Okay, so before I go downstairs and spend the day with my husband on his birthday watching bowl games all day, I wanted to pop on and I wanted to expand on that. So get your pen and get your journal, and I want you to write down a couple things. One being this: if we ever want to start to win the battle of our mind and really crawl out from dark places, we have to stop being the victim. So that's what I want you to write. I will stop being a victim. Because, life is not fair. We all know that. If you're breathing air right now, life is not fair. And we all have situations and circumstances that have happened in our life, that are happening in our life, or that will happen in our life, that are just not fair. And when we continue to play the victim, we will never, ever, ever win the battle in our mind, because we're blaming other people, and rightfully so. I mean, there's things that have happened to all of us that are not our fault. They're not anything we did. They were done to us. But that doesn't identify us. That's not our identity. That's not who we are. And when we start wearing those circumstances like our identity and we wallow in that, we really tie God's hands. Because, God's given us a free will. And he really likes faith. And he really likes people who believe what his word says, that who the Son sets free is free indeed. And he really likes when we think big and we believe big. So when we stay with a victim mentality, we tie God's hands. We have a free will, and he gives us that free will. And when we exercise that free will by thinking repeatedly over and over these thoughts of self-pity and why me, and just continuing to play that victim record over and over again, man, that's really hard for the Lord to do big things in our life. Okay, number one, I will stop being a victim. Okay, number two, what I want you to write in your journal, what I did was I wrote today's quote first, under the first, and then I wrote the two comments that I'm having you put right under there. So the second one I wanted you to write is, wounded people wound people. Okay? So when you think about the circumstances of your life, and you think about where you are, and you think about things that have been done to you, or maybe that you've done to someone else, okay? We have to understand that 99.9% of the time, if you have been wounded by somebody, by their actions, by their words, by their behavior, whatever it is, it's because they're wounded. And this was a huge wake-up call and reality check for me as I got into my adult years. And, as you're growing up and you have things happening in your life that just seem unfair or seem not right, and you can, even when you're younger, blame yourself. It's like, what have I done? Why is this happening? But then when we start to realize, oh my gosh, that person is so wounded that they're wounding me. It actually is very freeing, okay, to realize that, it's not me. It's not me. It's them. And what happens is you have a shift change in your attitude. And really, it becomes one of compassion, and one of just feeling like, wow, man, for you to behave this way and act this way, you are one wounded soul. And when we realize that about just the world in general, right? As we're walking our daily walk in life, and even people we know really well, or acquaintances, or people we hardly know who try and wound us, we can put them in the category of understanding. And it doesn't make it right. And it doesn't make what happened to you okay. I'm not saying any of that. I'm just saying that when we can put it in its proper perspective and realize that you were wounded because they're wounded. Because healthy people don't wound people. See? And this is why you want to get healthy, because you don't want to be a wounder, and you don't want to take with you all of the wounding that has happened to you and start wounding other people. And maybe you are, maybe you're not. So it's kind of a reflective moment too, to think, man, who am I wounding because of my wounding? Okay, so the only thing that makes it a part of your life is that you keep thinking about it. Okay, so I'm going to stop being a victim, and I'm going to realize that wounded people wound people. And so it's not necessarily me that's created this situation that I'm in. It's that they're wounded. And I want to rise above that, and I want to give God an opportunity to bring healing into my heart, into my mind, and I want to free myself up to let that happen by releasing my victim card that I want to play and talk about and tell everybody, okay? And just realize that God's got a great plan for me, and I want to open up myself to that plan. So, okay, January 1, here we go. Battlefield of the mind. I'll be back. Bye.